Welcome to the Empowered Spirit Show. This is your host, Terry Ann Hyman. I'll explore the connection to the human spirit in a way that helps to navigate your life, including crisis. I am passionate about helping you to open up to your intuition and the metaphysical world of spirit to find your confidence in your own inner guidance. Take a pause, be inspired, learn ways to show up focused, centered, and more dynamic in your everyday life. Welcome back to the Empowered Spirit Show. Thank you so much for tuning in and joining me today. Are you looking for a magical place to shop and hold space? Check out Ritual+Shelter online or in Homewood, Alabama. Browse through their bookshelves covering topics such as energy healing, Reiki, Chakras, auras, accessing the Akashic Records, shadow work, astrology, and earth-based healing. You can also find herbal teas and tinctures alongside the crystals and oils to help establish a mindful mindset and fluid ambience before meditation, ritual work, and reflection. Ritual+Shelter is dedicated to providing one-on-one, in-depth conversation with customers to help them find the most efficient healing methods and resources that match the customer's unique interest and energy. They offer tarot sessions as well as Reiki, soundbowl, and crystal healing. Visit Ritual+Shelter.com to book an appointment and bring peace back to the body, mind, and spirit. Or find them on Instagram at Ritual+Shelter Shop. As this podcast goes to air, we're coming to the end of spring with the next full moon on Friday, June 21st, and it's called the Strawberry Moon. This marks the summer solstice. The summer solstice marks the longest day of the year and the start of summer in the Northern Hemisphere. It generally falls on the 21st, but can also fall on June 20th or June 22nd. This year, I guess it's marked as June 20th. I read in the Farmer's Almanac that this June strawberry moon will be extraordinary. It will be the very lowest full moon we've seen in years, meaning it will appear big, large, and golden color. Sometimes they call this the moon illusion because it's going to be appearing so much bigger. And the reason is because it's relatively close to the earth. So you're going to see it through the horizon as it's rising through the trees and the chimney, which makes it appear bigger. And so your brain starts to compare the size of the moon to the trees and the building and other references of point, and suddenly that moon looks massive. Either way, it's full of energy, beautiful light, and marking this big transition for all of us. It's going to be in the sign of Capricorn. So Capricorn energy can maybe have you feeling like you need to be useful to society. You look for justification in the outside world, and you may even underestimate what you want from yourself and for yourself. Shyness may be accompanied by resentment of the fact that others ignore you. Do not seek approval from the outside. It will not help you get rid of your doubt, and it could be a little harmful to you. You have to trust your inner guidance and the energy of your soul. Going within and trusting your soul's guidance can be unsettling for many. Is it for you? Do you have trouble slowing down? Our society is so fast-paced that it can be hard to find silence amidst the chaos. But as I teach my students, there is power in slowing down, power in a pause. Do you need help in slowing down to access the messages of your soul so that you can live your dreams and your purpose? My private mentoring programs can help you tune into your soul, your purpose, and where you are caught in the gap. I've expanded my offers and broken them down to meet you where you are and where you are wanting to open up in your life. Maybe you just need help getting started on a spiritual practice. Maybe you need to learn to raise your vibration with Reiki. And what about breaking those old habits like emotional eating and excess drinking? We're working on that now in summer shapeshifting. Or maybe letting go of energy drains that keep you from being the leader in your work. Maybe it's just going in, learning how to read the Akashic Records and the lifetimes and wisdom your soul has been through. Schedule a spiritual upgrade call with me, and let's talk about how my programs can help you. Warning, this work will change your life. It can seriously improve your body, mind, and spirit. Side effects, yes. You may see yourself or others as they really are. You may experience loss of excess baggage, resulting in major life changes. That's what happened with me. You may become the person you are really meant to be. My Empowered Spirit programs can help upgrade your spiritual path. You will learn lots of energy tools, techniques, ways to center your energy to get rid of the energy drains, and ways to raise your vibration to remove the limited beliefs that hold you back. Summer is a great time to learn something new. It helps to have a spiritual mentor. It helps you to understand and recognize and get confirmations of the messages that you're bringing in. And my students say this helps them so much. It helps them recognize their energy, their intuition is growing, they aren't holding on to old emotions, and they're feeling happier in their lives. I can help you understand your gifts and abilities and gain confidence along your path. Schedule that complimentary call with me. The link to schedule will be in the show notes. And I also have some amazing things coming up this summer. I have a summer energy special. I have some work going on in my energy mastery sanctuary. Come join us. We're going to start out the summer with a tarot and chi in person or virtual event. Check my website for all the information. In today's episode, I am so excited to introduce my guest, Freddy Silva, to you. Not only because I am one of the contributing authors in his latest book, Portals, Energetic Doorways to Mystical Experiences Between Worlds, but also because he is fascinating and charming with all of his knowledge on the subject of portals and sacred spaces. Overall, he is interesting and filled with amazing stories to share with us. So in this episode, we talk about what portals are, laws of physics, NASA discoveries, electromagnetic fields, levels of reality, sacred spaces, the many reasons and functions of these portals, raising vibrations, and answering questions of your soul's journey, who you are, and why you are here. Along with places for me to visit in Santa Fe. Hint, hint, I'm putting together a retreat there. Before we begin, let's take a moment to pause and breathe and set an intention for where you are right now. So wherever you are, if you can, close your eyes. Take a nice deep inhale, breathing up the body. And as you exhale, allow the breath to move all the way through you, all the way down to Mother Earth. Inhale, expanding the breath up the body. Exhale, bringing the breath all the way back in. Call all your energy into you. Call it in. Inhale, breathing up the body. And now as you exhale, just aligning all of your energy, call in the spiritual body. Feel it aligning right on top of the physical, the emotional, the mental bodies. Centering, grounding. Inhale, expanding the breath up the body. And exhale, dropping right into the heart. Right into the deepest part of your heart, taking a moment. Feeling that connection, your spirit and the greater spirit. Know that you're loved, guided, protected. Feeling all this energy coming in around us. Taking a moment and noticing your path, your light. Right here on the edge of that transformative energy, transitions of seasons. Notice. We call in the directions for guidance and protection to the east, the south, the west, and the north, above us, below us, right there deep in your heart, setting an intention to carry you right into this new season. See it, hear it, feel it, know it, and allow the elevated emotions, how you want to feel, to radiate out all around you, setting that energy for you. Taking another deep inhale. And exhale, bringing this energy all the way down, grounding, centering, feeling the heart opening, feeling the illumination of your third eye. And as you're ready, blinking the eyes open, coming back. Freddy Silva is a best-selling author and leading researcher of ancient civilizations, restricted history, sacred sites, and their interaction with consciousness. He is also the leading expert on crop circles. He has published 8 books in 6 languages and produced 14 documentaries. Freddy's most recent book, and the one we're here to talk about today, is Portals, Energetic Doorways to Mystical Experiences Between Worlds. Described by one CEO as perhaps the best metaphysical speaker in the world right now, he leads sellout tours to sacred sites worldwide, and for 2 decades he has been an international keynote speaker with notable appearances at the International Science and Consciousness Conference, the International Society for the Study of Subtle Energy and Energy Medicine, and the Association for Research and Enlightenment, in addition to appearances on Gaia TV, History Channel, BBC, and radio shows such as Earth Ancients, Fade to Black, and Coast to Coast. So let us welcome Freddy to the show. Welcome, Freddy.
Good morning, wherever you are, or good evening, wherever you are.
That's right, wherever you are in the world. So it's very good to have you here. I'm excited to meet you. And as I said, as we were just kind of getting to know each other, be included in your book, Portals. How exciting to bring this work out into the world. So thank you for joining us today.
Well, thank you for having me, and thanks for contributing to the book as well. It makes my life so much easier when other people are contributing as well.
It is fun to read all the different experiences. It really is. Yeah.
Yeah. And it wasn't planned. I mean, it's we don't know what anybody's going to say, and they don't know what I'm going to write about. So it's kind of funny me reading through the 12 co-contributors in the middle, that they seem to really parallel what I was describing in the main body of the material. So that was kind of refreshing for me as well.
It was very refreshing to read all the different viewpoints and learn about all these different places that we have all around the world that holds a sacred energy. I know when I was going down to Teotihuacan, I'd always heard there was portals of energy and it was a very special place, but that was all I heard. Our teachers wouldn't tell us anything about it. They didn't want to get any kind of preconceived notions about it. And we would just go and then experience that land. And you do talk a little bit about that in the book as well, how to find these places. But as we go to begin, let's just answer the question, what are portals?
I mean, portals defined are essentially places on the face of the earth where the laws of physics as we know them happen to be a little bit different. And the electromagnetic variations of the local landscape are just so that enable you, under the right conditions, to slip through into another level of reality, which is why, you know, people going back 10, 20,000 years have been building things on them to remind us of where these subtle places are that we can connect with a final level of reality. So this is why I call them the self-help centers of the planet, because, you know, when you forget that you can do this by yourself and you are the temple that you were looking for, our predecessors left us the instructions in these places to go and connect and literally discover who we are and why we're here. So they form a very, very important part in our understanding of who we are and where we're going.
I agree. And I had never really put that connection together about the idea of putting the temple on those spots of energy. So I know when we were down in Teotihuacan, it was like Temple of the Moon, Temple of the Sun, Temple of the Jaguar. And I really, you know, and the pyramids too, they were called the pyramids, right? So there's both of those terminologies, but I just know the whole area was this amazing sacred site. And for me, it was very self-healing. I released a lot of energy and recognized a lot of energy I had been holding that had been attaching in places that I wasn't aware. So it was very fascinating.
They do form multiple functions as well. I mean, when you start looking at the history behind these places, and I mean, Egypt's a great example because so much of it is still intact. you begin to realize that, they use these energy portals for different purposes. Sometimes just for connecting with stars, sometimes with the land, sometimes to perform a kind of earth acupuncture, because all of these places sit on very geodetically sensitive areas. Like in France, around Karnak, they put 80,000 stones in the most active earthquake area of Europe. So there's a reason why they're doing this. And then, of course, there's the initiation purpose, which is what you're alluding to, is the fact that you go from temple to temple and you build up your resistivity in your body to be able to take in this extra frequency. So by the time you get to the big places like the pyramids, you're much more attuned to the site. And it's not like sticking your fingers directly into the electricity socket. You're already pretty much attuned to that frequency. This is why I don't let people go anywhere near the Great Pyramid of Egypt on the first day. I said, we'll be back here 10 days later, and there's a good reason for it. So they do fulfill multiple functions, but that is one of the main purposes, is to get you attuned.
It is pretty fascinating. It is. And I believe it all starts with just being attuned to Mother Earth right now. Being outside, noticing the elements. I do believe that's kind of where it starts so that we can start to feel what that vibration of energy is like. I mean, you talk about, well, one thing you talked about was the science experiment, and that science, like talking about how they found these portals that opened up into the cosmic realms. That was pretty interesting to read about. The science of portals. Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of it. I mean, it's kind of ironic, isn't it, that Aboriginal people 20,000 years ago were sensing this, and they still do to this very day. You can be walking around the outback in the middle of a featureless desert, and they'll know how to turn right exactly at that spot because they can sense the recording of people that were on these strips of magnetic tape throughout the land. And yet it takes us until the 20th and the 21st century to develop the technology to go up into the sky and go, oh, wait a minute. And I remember the press release from NASA in 2008, like it was yesterday. It was like, we just discovered magnetic portals that open and close every so many minutes that link the Earth to the sun. And I'm thinking, that's funny because in the Indian Vedas, they had described this in 8000 BC, and they called it by a different terminology. They're talking about the serpents that flow along the land that are mirrored in the sky, that are the arrows of sorcerers. And the sorcerers are the people that were using the arrow or the intention as an arrow to connect A to B, to get to take them somewhere else. So it's funny that we're talking about the same stuff. And we now know that they do exist. And of course, science, bless them, they're always sort of a few centuries behind everybody else. But they do spend quite a bit of time making fun of us, but that's okay. We'll have the last laugh.
I agree. Sometimes when science comes out, it's like, yeah, proving what I already knew, right? And now they do brain scans and show you, it's, yeah, proving what we already know. It's that same old idea. It's like, just because we can't see it doesn't mean it's not existing, right? We
Exactly.
go onto the earth and we feel these places, and they are pretty amazing that we can perceive energy. I know the second time I went back, like you said, I was already kind of like prepared. Not that I was looking for the same experience, but I was able to access that information quicker
Mm.
and easier and be right there. And so much more I uncovered. It was fascinating. I don't know what will happen the next time I go back either, but it is quite fascinating.
Oh, be careful what you
It
ask for.
is what you ask for. That is very true. I agree.
It's every single time. I mean, you go there, your body acclimates to a new level of frequency. It's a bit like learning the music
Hmm.
scale. You've mastered, C to C, and then you go, "Hey, I'm a pretty good musician." And then you go back to the instrument and you go, "Well, wait a minute, there's another octave here, and there's another octave." It's always a learning experience. I mean, I remember when I was living near Avebury in England, and I was very spoiled. Avebury, Giant's Graves, Stonehenge, all within a short distance of each other. And I'd go to Avebury about, 100, 200 times at different times of the day. I'm still learning stuff just by going there because the light will shine on a different stone in a different way. Or in the winter, it behaves different to the summer. 11:30 at night, when the sheep are asleep, you just step over them and go and connect with a temple as it's actually giving you some really incredible information. And you take a flashlight and a piece of paper and write down things. It never stops. It really doesn't stop, which is why it's such a wonderful treasure hunt to connect with these places.
It is a treasure hunt. And I remember we got to go into a hot air balloon and look down on the whole plazas and everything. And the way the sun was hitting and the
Mm.
sacred geometry of the light, it was very fascinating to even see it from that perspective as well. And it
Yeah.
was almost like, wow, there's even more than I even experienced in that one time. There's more to open up. But you talk about as well, like the electromagnetic fields, like being able to feel it and the laws of physics being on the earth. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a secret site, or can it be anywhere on the earth? I think you also talk about like being in Manhattan, making it more common. How do you find those?
Oh, I mean, you just become much more sensitive to your environment. And I think the whole point, looking back on it historically, is that going back from, say, Aboriginal people who didn't build anything, the Hopi didn't build anything, the Navajo never built anything. They could sense this. And I think they had the foresight back then to realize that 10,000 years later, we today, in the 21st century, we're busy going, I think I know everything I need to know. Or, you're watching television, but we'd be so disconnected from the planet that gave birth to us that we would need help. So they'd have to build these places to remind us. But if you just become more sensitive to your environment, you can be walking down central Manhattan, as I like doing, and people laugh at me. Well, my American friends laugh at me. It's like Manhattan said, you have no idea how incredible Midtown Manhattan is. And the buildings that are there have got all of this wonderful sacred language written in them by people who understood that stuff, but they hid it beautifully for those who know. So walking around Central Park, you'd be taking a little right turn in this boulder that was scratched by the glaciers. It was basically an erratic. And I get that thing that I call the tingly wingly, that sense that I get when I'm in Stonehenge and I go, oh, hello. And I just sit there and I'm literally away with the fairies. So these things are everywhere. I mean, I have one in my living room. And it's funny how I watch people who don't know what my building is or where it's located. And it used to be near an old Abenaki sacred site here in Maine. And I watch people gravitate to the one place where that portal, that vortex of energy that comes out of the ground like a tube, it comes right in one particular part of my sofa, and they could be sitting anywhere in the whole building, but they'll go exactly to that spot and they'll go, "This is a lovely place to hang out." And I said, "Yep." Yeah, they don't know, they can't explain it, but they've already picked it up. And dogs are the first one to get it. They'll go straight for that spot. They'll start sniffing around. They could have the whole run of the whole building, but no, they like that spot. So yeah, if you're just more attentive to your environment and you're much more sensitive, and usually there's a little trick I play on people is, let me just find out how sort of sensitive you are to the environment, how mindful you are. Name me 10 sounds you heard in the last 10 minutes. And people will get to two and they'll say, I can't remember anything else. Okay, well, then go around the corner, go for a walk for 15 minutes and come back 15 minutes later and pay attention to everything. And they'll come back and I'll say, well, give me 10 sounds that you can remember from your walk. And they'll just won't stop talking. Right down to the thing where they'll say, I think I heard the grass growing under my feet. I said, well, great. Now you're mindful. And when you're in that state of grace, you begin to feel these subtle places on the land because your body is also an electromagnetic edifice. I mean, we are basically just a great big bunch of little vortices of electromagnetism, making it look like we're a physical object. So we're looking for like for like. So again, once you're into that state, you can find anything on the land.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. My dad left some property to me when he passed, and on it, I kept like being attracted to these two trees, and I would go up there. I came back to bring up my parents, so it was kind of a sad time through end of life. And I'd go up there, and I kept going. I have to sit here. I have to sit here. I have to sit here. I eventually built a medicine wheel, not really even knowing what I was doing. I just started moving rocks. It sits on what they call the Camelot Plateau, and so there was a lot of energy in the rocks, which you actually talk about in your book, the whole idea of rocks and the vibration. And I kept building it and building it and building it, and still maintain it to this day. I don't really know exactly what all the old history is there, but I do feel. And to me, it's more important that I just go and feel than have to know all the what's and the who's and the whys. But you can find places like that. And again, be in touch with that. And for me, it's been very healing. Do you find that to be any different than going to sacred sites? Is it just more energy built in the sacred site, or really it's just more the reaction you have with that spot, with that place?
Oh, I think a place becomes sacred because it's people recognize it over millennia and they go there to add their prayers. You don't take your problems to sacred sites. You go there to, give veneration, say a prayer, ask for assistance. And it's that energy, again, these little packets of energy and emotion that go and stick into the rock. The sacred spaces are basically defined also by the amount of quartz in the stone, not just any old quartz, but it's the type of quartz that's highly piezoelectric. So that little packet of information that you're sending to the local environment is picked up and memorized. Now, you do that over millennia with tens of thousands of people doing exactly the same thing. It reinforces that concept of wholeness and connection. So that's how a place goes from ordinary to sacred space. Doesn't have to build anything on it. That's just to tell you that X marks the spot in case you can't feel it. But it's that sense that people have been doing this for so long that it becomes memorialized, and then it becomes easier also to pick up. So, and that's very important to say that, never take your problems to a sacred site. You're just polluting what is already perfect. It doesn't care about your problems, but it will help you if you go there and say, look, I need some clarification on something, and don't expect anything in return. If you expect it, it won't happen. Just go there and say, I need some clarification. And you sit there, have a drink, take a sandwich, and just be away with the fairies and the birds. And before you know it, all these images are coming through, or words, or a sound, or maybe you end up sleeping on it. If you're very grounded as a person, it takes a bit longer, I find. All us earth signs take a little bit longer to digest this, but it does come if you're just much more aware of it.
I like that distinction. Don't take your problems, go there for prayer and ask for clarity. I like that distinction. Yeah.
Yeah.
Helps lift that vibration.
It's worked for me so far.
It's worked for you so far. Yeah.
The Egyptians actually made the point of saying that on the back of a wall. It's like, the temple is the perfect image of a god, and a god is basically a force of nature, the spirit bound in anything, the microphone, a rock, a plant, that's a god. They're giving a concrete version or a physical expression to an invisible form. So that is perfection as far as they're concerned. So if you take imperfection into the temple, you're actually breaking down the whole structure of what it is. And I remember this. There's a place in Saqqara in Egypt has a interesting one of a kind passageway to get into the actual body of the god, which is the courtyard of the pyramid. And it's a colonnade of reeds. And I remember walking down the first time. Now, I remember being pushed and pulled left to right, and I'm going, wait a minute. It's like I'm walking down a labyrinth. Can it be? And of course, you can't douse there unless you pay somebody, because it's a religious thing. They don't understand, but if you give them $10, they'll look the other way. So I was able to actually douse that passageway, and each alcove has a positive and a negative charge. You're going from left to right. So the idea was that you're being reminded to leave all your trash at the front door, and you're perfecting yourself as you enter the perfect body of the god. And those instructions, I found out later, are in the pyramid next door in an underground chamber. It's about mastering yourself before crossing each gate. And there are 7 gates, and there are exactly 7 positive nodes of energy down that corridor. So again, it's just about that sort of mindfulness, not knowing exactly what you're doing, and then finding out later that you're absolutely right because you found the information written on the wall to validate the whole thing. That's how research is done. Don't do the theory and
That
then try
is
to prove it.
fascinating.
The theory comes from the experience. That's much more valid, I
I
think.
agree. And I think the experience I had, like knowing this energy, like the walls were so familiar, the colors, the painting. I was an artist. And to this day, I keep thinking, well, I know I was an artist. I don't really paint. I do other. I'm an artist of the spirit, so to speak, but I don't really paint. And I knew I did those walls. And there was something there. Is that a parallel universe? Is that a past life? For me, it kind of came as past life, which was connecting grief for me. But it was all fascinating to be in that moment of energy that takes us, I guess, at a time, really, right?
Exactly. I mean, and some of it depends what you're looking for. I find that if you already sit at home and think, well, I think I need to find this about myself. I need to go to Peru. And your plans will fall apart because you've just sent a piece of information to Peru. And all the temples there, which are all alive, by the way, they're very sensitive beings, by the way. They get offended very easily. And they'll say, we haven't got that here. Our purpose was for something else. This person needs to go to Scotland, to the stone circles. They've got what it needs. And before you know it, your plans have changed and you're booking a ticket to Scotland. You go to the stone circles there, especially on the islands, because they're so perfect up there. They've never been polluted by human folly. And you find that when you get there, it's like a remembrance, and they're giving you exactly what you requested. But again, if you don't expect it, the hit becomes much more positive. But I know exactly what you're saying. Some things are just so familiar, and yet you have no physical experience of that in this lifetime. So how can that be? I remember when I was growing up, I think I was about 10. I was collecting stamps. and I was living in London. And the first stamps I got was a diorama of two stamps, which formed the front of an Egyptian temple. And it stayed with me forever. And I thought, I know this place, and I'm 10. I have to go there one day. And of course, it's the front of the Temple of Luxor in Egypt. And I wouldn't know until 30 years later when I'm working with a psychic who helps the police with their inquiries in England. But she was doing a lot of my spiritual development and my knowledge of what I know today. And she took me to Egypt with a small group, and I'm in Luxor watching this with my mouth open. And it's all coming back to me. And she comes up behind me, like she usually does, and says, "It's all coming back now, isn't it?" She already knew without me saying a single word. And I've said, I mean, I don't want to feel like I'm some kind of a pharaoh or someone important. We all want to be someone important in a different life. But I got the sense I built this colonnade, but it's not the way how I left it. And that's exactly what I said. And it turns out that I actually was one of the architects of part of Luxor Temple during the time of Akhenaten. Of course, her connection was with his father, and that she channels his father, Amenhotep III, and that's how she and I are now connected in this lifetime. And I had no idea this was even possible, and I was really picking it up when I was 8. So this is very, very possible. Again, you got to firm the intention that you take to the sacred site, and then it will reciprocate in kind.
I love that. It's funny you say that. I was supposed to go to Peru. I was supposed to go to Peru, and then everything switched,
Oh, really?
and I ended up going to Teotihuacan instead, and met a teacher that I probably would not have met had I gone to Peru, and met a teacher I'm working with now, a Toltec teacher, and then all of this opened up there and happened for me there. So it is funny that you say that.
Yeah, it's magic, isn't
It
it?
is magic. It is. And even just the second trip too was a harder trip. I uncovered so much more and it had to do with my heart and my love, but it is fascinating. It is fascinating. And I like that idea. What is the intention? What are you, opening up to? And I think that does help us. And I think that we can just be on the earth in certain places and feel that even just sitting and connecting with the earth. I love to listen to the wind. What is the wind telling me right now? And it does start with that getting quiet for sure.
Exactly. I remember a line from the film Braveheart. It says, Goha, you got to listen to the wind. And he's talking to an FBI agent, and the FBI agent is like, what the hell are you talking about? You got to listen to the wind. And eventually he gets the message and he finds all these wonderful things in this reservation in Northern Dakota. But yeah, it's a fiction film, but it's based on reality. It's a real story. I find that very funny, watching it again and again.
I do
Val
watch it
Kilmer,
again and again too. I love the movie myself.
good film.
I am going out to Santa Fe first time. I've been invited out to some of the Native American dances. I've never been, bucket list. I'm going out there in July, and I have been drawn to wanting to go to Santa Fe for a long time. And then the invitation came. And I don't know what I'm going to expect there either, but I'm very excited about that. And that just like you kind of opened up that possibility of being drawn to go to someplace for me again. So I am. It is going to.
Well, you have to go to the Church of San Miguel, the old one right downtown in Santa Fe, because that's on an old Navajo sacred site. It's one of a very rare church in America, because when the white people moved here from Europe, they didn't bring any of this stuff with them. This is all the work of the devil. So they didn't put their places like they did in Europe on top of the old sacred sites. But the one in Santa Fe, that is on the original Navajo temple, as is the one in the Rancho de Chimayo. It's on an Anasazi sacred site. That is powerful beyond belief. And forget the thousands of crosses that hit you even in the car park. It's the biggest number of crosses per square inch on the planet. Forget all of that stuff. The point is that you're on land that really is very, very healing. So those two places are very special down there. And it's very rare in this country to find that. And there's a very good sacred spring and spa just up the road, which you can cover yourself in volcanic mud for the whole day and have a tequila brought to you while you're sitting there watching your skin get better. Not that I'm saying anything, but I do it too. I really like that sensation. I'm very vain.
Right. No, I hear you. And it is funny because I had thought about going to Santa Fe a while ago and then it kind of got pushed away. And then now it's actually happening. And I do feel like it is something that's going to set me on my next journey. I've been searching. I've been like, my soul is wandering right now. And I finished contracts. My parents are gone. My kids are married. I'm getting ready to leave Birmingham now for my next adventure. And I don't know where I'm going, but I do feel that this is something that's going to help me open that up. So my intention.
Oh, I totally agree. In fact, if you can get to Mount Tewa, No, is it the Tewa? I can't remember the name of the mountain. It's where the Tewa people live. It's in the southwest section, just outside Santa Fe. There's a hill there, and it's one of the most potent sacred sites on top of the hill. You won't find anything there, and that's the point, because that's where the portal is. That's where the energy comes out of the ground in a certain way that you just go there and connect with nature. And if you ask the Tewa people, they'll probably point it to you. They'll probably figure you out that you're on the right path. And they have a way of doing that. I don't know how they do it. They'll look at you and go, yeah, and they'll send you up there. And it's a very potent little place. Yeah, no, I totally agree about Santa Fe.
I have to say that just gave me so much inspiration, right? For this lost soul that I am, just to think that yes, that my soul is being guided, and just to have that patience and to be in that state of like, okay, let me just listen to the wind. Listen to the wind for sure. Yeah. Now, I did
Exactly.
want to ask you something you talked about in your book, The Green Man. What is that?
The Green Man, the Green Knight, the Green King, these are all expressions of the burgeoning nature. At the end of the year, when everything is collapsed after Halloween and it's all going into the underworld, everything's dying, well, the earth has to resume its course back to life. So on December the 21st, for 3 days, on the winter solstice, the light begins to overcome the dark of the year, the solar year, and that the effigy that they came up with to represent that is this green man. Essentially, it's a man's face with foliage coming out of his mouth and his nostrils. And there's more images of the green man in churches in Europe than they are of Jesus. That's how important this person is. And people keep saying, well, but the earth is very feminine, so why do we have a man representing this? I said, well, think about it for a second. The earth is the feminine, but the green man has to impregnate the earth in order for life to be created and start on December the 25th. That's also the same day when Horus comes out of the underworld, having gone in as Osiris. It's part of the rebirth, you see. So it's part of this divine marriage, the alchemical wedding, as the Rosicrucians used to call it. So don't think about the terms of masculine, feminine. Just think about the fact that there's a marriage, a divine marriage being consummated here, and that's what gets the whole thing going. And how it was came about was because the church was basically taking over the whole of Europe back then. They were decimating the sacred sites and even incorporating them into the fabric of the buildings. So people didn't realize where the sacred sites were anymore. So the stonemasons did us a favor, and they would carve these little green men on bosses above the doorways or above pillars and things. And they were trying to tell you that this was originally a place of veneration. And where the green man happens to be also happens to be the point where the energy upwells from the ground. So if you stand near the green man, you're getting the portal right there. So it's a wonderful subterfuge to help people maintain that connection while basically paying homage to a new religion. Very cunning, I have to
That
say.
is interesting. It's almost like the gargoyles in New York City, walking around and finding those. Even in Birmingham, there are many. I remember going on like a haunted
Yeah.
Southern ghost tour around Birmingham, and they're just finding those little spots there that house those and hold that energy. We'd go and we'd stand under them. So it is very similar and coming from that kind of inspiration, I would imagine.
Yeah, stonemasons were very clever in hiding things in plain sight, which of course is all connected to Freemasonry. Scottish Rite Freemasonry. There is Rite Freemasonry, there's wrong Freemasonry. So Scottish Rite and the Masons and the Templars and the Essenes, the Mandeans, they're all connected. They come from exactly the same place. So this is how they got away with, metaphoric murder because they were going to be boiled alive if they came up with this and talked about it. So their way around it was to give you a little nod and a wink by giving you the information in the buildings of where to go. So they literally got away with a
Very,
lot of
very
stuff.
interesting. It is. Sometimes we don't think about that. We just notice the architect. We don't think about where it is and what it's marking. So I do love that concept, that idea. And I think it's true. I know I'm always fascinated by finding those markings and finding those places. Yeah. So what led you to have this first discovery?
Oh God, I've been asked this so many times. I keep coming back to the fact that I was drawing pyramids when I was three. So something was up. I think that we're all born to do something, and some people are very lucky they click into it at a very early age. I fell into it much later. I had to be sort of cajoled into it because I was much more, from my background, from a very, very poor family. And I mean, no electricity, nothing. Having to go outside to go to the toilet in the middle of the night because there was no toilet. So I've always had that sort of sense I have to go and earn a living and make tons of money and find a safe thing. So I worked in advertising for many years as a creative director, hating pretty much every moment of it. Not really felt that I wasn't that passionate about it. And every time I get laid off for having a conscience and saying, no, we can't advertise artificial sweetness because they kill you. And here's the scientific papers to prove this. Oh, I'm fired. Why? So I would go back home, look at my navel, feel sorry for myself, and I'd pull books that I'd had for 20 years. I never got a chance to read about the Great Pyramid or about menhirs and standing stones. And I thought, why can't I be doing this for a living? This is much more interesting. And one day something happens where, I started to research crop circles, which are the same portals. I mean, they're built exactly as a Gothic cathedral or as a Stonehenge. They're just in flattened crop. They behave exactly the same way. And I was trying to find out what makes them tick and what's behind it, little knowing that someone was using me to write a book that becomes an international bestseller. I mean, that's a pretty good way to start your career as an author. And I had no intention of doing it. And one day I go into a crop circle in the middle of the night, asked a question, what connects these things together? And next thing I know, I'm being levitated off the ground, and I saw these people dressed in white around me, which I still follow to this day. I didn't realize that they are behind much of the research that I do for all my books. They used to have the nickname Shining Ones or Watchers, and they're incredibly intelligent people, very benevolent, mischievous sense of humor. But that's the first time I basically connected with them, and I didn't know what the hell was going on. And next thing I know, 45 minutes later, I hit the ground with a thud. I had a sort of sore neck to prove it. And I just started writing like a lunatic. And this stuff was just coming out. And I thought, where's this coming from? I'm a writer, yes, but I don't write that well. And next thing you know, I got a book together. And then next book comes out. I suddenly realized what this is all about and the connection with these portals that is the thinning of worlds that allows the communication to take place. So little did I know that I stumbled into this by accident. In a manner of speaking, these coincidences are not so coincidental. So now they become my extended family. So whenever I start a new project, I sort of connect with these people, and I find them in certain places around the world. I've seen them coming out of the Great Pyramid. There are three witnesses to this. In total darkness in the King's Chamber, four of us saw these same people, 8.5 feet tall, dressed in white, coming out of the stones and surrounding us. It's a wonderful moment, and that changes your life. And that's when I quit my day job and said, that's it. I'm taking a leap of faith. I'm going to do this. So you lose your job, you lose your friends, your marriage, everything goes, and you're feeling sorry for yourself and you're cursing the management for what they've done to your life. But you know what? I wouldn't change the experience for anything else because I am who I am now and I'm very happy for it. I found my calling in life. And I see the same thing for a lot of other people as well. It's those little moments to get you to question what it is why you chose plan B instead of plan A. And these moments, these hurdles are to get you back to plan A all the time.
I can appreciate that right now. I can appreciate that information. And
As you'll find out in Santa Fe.
how amazing. Yeah. And I think I said I first heard of your work through crop circles.
Yeah.
I was hanging out with a guy up in Ithaca, an off the grid kind of spiritual teacher, and he was fascinated with them, and we would start looking for them. Do you think they're still cropping up today? Are they still as prominent as they were when you were writing your book?
No, and we knew this ahead of time because of the psychic connection that was going on with a close-knit group of people. We were way ahead of everything else. In fact, the book was written really to validate the psychic material. All the science is there. You just have to work hard at it. And we knew that by 2003 that the communication would cease because they'd given us the span of the communication. And they said, and I quote, it's now up to humanity to decipher this, work it through, and implement what we've given you, because we can't change the world for you. You have to change the world if you wanted to. We can only watch. That's why we call the watchers. And since then, they said, we're just going to fine tune here and there. We're trying to, and again, I'm quoting, we're going to prevent the earth from turning over because they're saying the earth has to evolve. It's way overdue for a good evolvement. And you people have no idea that you're in the middle of massive change and you have to prepare. And it's happened again and again and again. 13 times since the end of the Ice Age, we've had a near end of civilization scenario. We're in the middle of one right now, and we're woefully underprepared further consequences. And the trick is that every time we have survived, people will die, but people will survive and we carry on. And that was the whole point. So they said, we're just going to fine tune a few simple circles here and there, just to fine tune the energy of the earth to buy you enough time to get yourself out of this mess and prepare. So pretty much everything since 2003 has been pretty much man-made, and you can tell the one from the other. It's night and day. So if I'm sorry if that's bad news for a lot of people, but if I'm going to follow something, I want to follow it for the right reasons, not be misled by fakery and trickery, and that gets you
I
nowhere.
agree. I agree with that so much. And I feel like even my awareness of them has kind of gone down. And I guess for me, it's probably because it did open up more to the portal idea and looking for those portals. And I think, like you're saying,
Yeah.
it kind of transitioned into that. Yeah.
Exactly. And it's not just the symbol, it's the energy in the crop circle that's important. It's still there. The energy has gone into the grid of the earth. And it's funny that since they arrived, more attention has been thrown onto the local sacred sites next to which they appear. That was the whole point, because we shut down the sacred spaces for 2,500 years because they were being abused. And now they're opening up to the new energy. People are attracted to them for some reason. Well, that's part of the crop circle matrix. They're putting the energy into these portals around the world. The energy seeps to the local sacred site and it reactivates. So in a way, they are helping to wake up the planet for something that has not been practiced for over 2,500 years. So the fact that they're not here is no big deal. I mean, for me, it is, because I love being interactive with these things and I love the magic about them. But the energy of the crop circle is now in the sacred sites. So visit the sacred sites and there you'll find the same thing. So all is not lost.
All is not lost. I agree. And I feel even more inspired to start finding more of these portals of energy and sacred sites and yeah, visiting them. I am. Yeah, for sure. Well, what a fascinating conversation. Your book is awesome. You outline your story, all the contributing authors as well.
Like
And then
you.
you even talk about how to enter into a portal. I think that's really important for people to understand as well.
Yeah, I think the third part was actually very interesting, and I kept it very simple. People can go on to all these incredibly head-hurting concepts of how to engage with other world energy, and for me, it's like, well, we can make it a lot simpler than that. It comes down to a few very basic principles, which I know it sounds like I'm not selling a book, but the point is, I want people to get it. It's much more to be direct sometimes than to be there using flowery language. I think we're in a bit of a hurry, and so am I, by the way. I think we're hitting a certain point where we need to break through a critical mass. So let's cut to the chase with big words. This is how it works. This is how I engage with portals. This is what you take in there. This is what you don't take in there. And it was actually really fun writing it, because usually my books are quite, that thick. This is actually a very simple thing to write, because I just stripped it down to its basics. And I thought, I feel better now, actually. I got that off my chest. So it is practical. And I think that's the most important thing of
It
all.
is a great way to pull it all together and really experience it from a different perspective, but have that knowledge there for us to read and see. So, where can we direct people to find your work? What's going on? Are you leading any of these retreats or anything like that?
Oh, well, I'm always on tour. I tried to take a sabbatical for a year, and that didn't work out too well. I thought I'd sort of try and heal a broken heart, but I figured the best way to heal is to keep on working. So, yeah, we got two trips going to Portugal, which are sold out in 50 seconds. And I'm not joking. It's sold out in 50 seconds. So I have to say, I don't usually say much about myself, but I will say one thing. I lead some bloody good tours and people get spoiled and they keep coming back again and again. So we're doing that. We're doing Egypt in April. I'm about to put up Yucatan in January. So there's an events page on my website. So for all the information about events, talks, books, videos, which are 14 of them, invisibletemple.com.
Okay, I will put the link there. Yucatan. All right. How awesome is that? And then a shout out to Sacred Stories for your book, and we'll put the links for that as well.
Well, thank you.
As we go to close, I do like to come back and just kind of sum it all up and ask, how do you feel that the work that you're doing with these sacred sites and these portals can help to empower the spirit right now?
Oh, I think if things were normal right now and very calm, I don't think I'd be doing my job properly. I think the reason why things are in the chaotic state is because the people like myself are bringing questions to bear on the current state of things, on our spirituality, on our direction that we've chosen to take. And that's having an effect on the old guard, which are fighting back, as you'd expect. So that's what this work is all about. It's about making you much more aware. I'm not trying to sell you anything or convince you of anything. I want to put the information in your lap and let you figure out the truth. I'm giving you the tools to work out for yourself. And I think Gandhi said it better than me. Be the change you wish to see. So you take these tools, you apply them, and be that change. And the change will eventually happen. In our lifetime, I'll add.
In our lifetime, I would like to see that. Yes. So through that awareness and be the change you want to see and find that part within yourself that can guide you. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for joining us today. Great to meet you.
Thank you, Terry.
Yeah. To your spirit. Namaste. Yes, it is time to be aware of the sacred land you live on. Find those places that raise your vibration and be still. Allow your soul to know. I know it's hard to be the change, but when you can allow your soul to speak and trust that guidance, it can happen. Let it begin with you. Sit on Mother Earth and listen to the wind. Be sure to check out Freddy's work. His website is amazing, his photographs, his wisdom, and get a copy of the book. All the links to Freddy will be in the show notes. And a big shout out to Ritual+Shelter here in Birmingham for sponsoring the podcast. And they will be hosting a book signing for portals on Saturday, June 22nd from 3 to 5. I'll offer a talk about portals, share my experiences, and sign a few books. Come join us. Thanks again for listening. This is your host, Terry Ann Hyman. To your spirit, namaste.